Okay, so my simulator has finished simulating all of the requests and simulating as if real users were actually requesting my website or my application. And so now I've gone ahead and refreshed this page, and I see that now we have a bunch of traces here. So what we can do is we can go into a given trace, and it will actually tell us what we're actually doing. So the total time of this request was almost 90 milliseconds. So it responded in under 100 milliseconds. That's actually a very, very good result. So our application is extremely fast and it's responding fast to our users, at least the /search request handler. And here we can see that the only thing we're doing is actually using the search API. That's why we have a .search, because we're using the search library, which is the search API. And this is what's taking most of our time, and this is logical. It's taking up 50 milliseconds, so that's actually not that bad. Let's go back to the traces and see if we can find something a little bit more interesting. And here we see these are all of our traces, and they're actually responding in more or less 100 milliseconds, so that's really good. And I'm just going to scroll down to see if we can find one that goes into the recipe page. Okay, here. So here we have a bunch of recipes. Wow, 12 milliseconds. This is extremely, extremely fast. So let's go and see what these are doing. Now this is really interesting. Here it says it's only doing a memcache get, okay? Memcache is something we didn't talk about in this class. And we didn't talk about it for a couple of reasons. One is I didn't want to get into too much detail about performance and all that, because that's slightly more advanced. First, you have to learn how to build an application, and then you can start worrying about the performance of the application. And the reason why we're going through traces is because it's nice and handy to identify some performance issues, but we're not going to dive into too much detail. And also I want to show this tool because it's a fantastic tool. This tool is really amazing. Okay, so memcache. What is memcache? Well, memcache, as I said in section 1, it's a way of temporarily storing things in memory, okay? So if I ask you what's 2 plus 2, you will say 4, but you didn't go ahead and in your head calculate what is 2 add 2. So you didn't go and add 2 to 2 and found out and counted that was 4. Instead, you have done this calculation so many times that you just know off the back that the result is 4. And this is exactly what memcache does. Memcache is something that remembers the results of operations so that the next time when we ask for the exact same thing, we don't have to go ahead and calculate everything, okay? So here we're requesting a recipe. So let's actually go ahead and go into this recipe. Okay, so this is the recipe that we're requesting. Now, what our application does is it goes ahead and reads this ID and then goes to the data store and reads or fetches the recipe with this ID and then formats this page, okay? So when it does that, the NDB library immediately saves this into memcache. So we didn't implement memcache, but the NDB library implements memcache from the get-go. So we don't even have to worry about that. We don't even have to worry about these performance things about using memcache because the NDB library already does this for us. So what the NDB library has gone ahead is it remembered the result of this recipe and saved it into memcache. And the next time when we're asking for this recipe, it checks the memcache if it's there, and if it's there, it simply uses memcache, which is extremely blazingly fast. Look, 1 millisecond to fetch a result out of memcache. I mean, I don't think you can get much quicker than this. So it uses memcache to fetch it from the memcache and provide us with the results. Okay, so this is transparent to us. We didn't implement this, and this is really fantastic because again, it's stuff that we don't have to worry about, and App Engine has us covered. If we weren't fetching this from memcache, then we would probably have to go to the data store and do some read operations, which would take maybe some 20 milliseconds or something. So it'd be a bit longer than this 1 millisecond. And now the rest of the time is actually, I'm guessing it's, App Engine doesn't tell us what it is, but I'm guessing it's some kind of network connections. Whenever you're calling memcache, well, your application has to call the memcache service. So this maybe takes these 4 milliseconds here. And then to actually, when we've already got the results, then to actually render the template, well, this is maybe the remaining time.